Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this review, I want to do my review of the most overrated, overhyped sporting event, for the whole year, and that is, of course, the Super Bowl 50, which took place in Tampa, Florida. And of course, my pet peeve is that I hate football. Football sucks. So I am not going to do an overall review of analyze the game like you hear on Sports Talk Radio or on ESPN or the NFL Network or all over the place overanalyzing this game. What I want to talk about is what people don't talk about, and that is, of course, this game went 3.5 fucking hours. Excuse my language, folks. It went 3.5 hours. Where is the outrage to the game didn't go through? That this game went 3.5 hours. First of all, the game usually starts at 6:30 Eastern time, but this game started at 6:40, 10 minutes later, and this game ended about 6:12 p.m. Eastern time. Precisely, it's about like 6 hours. I think about 3 hours and 32 minutes. If you want to be exact about it. This was one of the longest Super Bowl games ever. I think last year's game went 3.5 hours. I think it was like 3 hours and 25 minutes last year. These games have been going longer and longer and longer every single year, and nobody. You can listen to all the sports talk radio you want. Not one sports talk radio host. Not one person who calls in one of these shows, not one NFL expert, not one caller, not one sports talk show host, no one hosting ESPN or the NFL Network. No one ever complains about how long these games go. Nobody. Even a regular season game, nobody complains about how long these games go. I'm about the only person in the world who brings this up, and these games go way. That's why people now, in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, want to have the day after the Super Bowl and declared a national holiday, so that people could recover from the hangovers, because these games go way too long, which they don't really mention. But like I just said, but they went recover from the hangovers for the most part. So because they're so hungover from boozing it up at Super Bowl parties and local bars, that they don't want to get out of bed at like 5 or 6 o'clock the next morning, after being up to like maybe Sundays past midnight for watching the Super Bowl party or getting home from a Super Bowl party, and they had to get up in about 5 or 6 hours to drag themselves to work in the next morning. And part of the reason is A, because of hungover, and B, they don't want to admit it, but the games go too long. And they never want to say that these games go too long, but which is true. Joe Buck on Fox, who does the games on Fox Sports, he announced 3 of the longest Super Bowl games in actual time. He announced a game that went, the overtime game, the Super Bowl game a couple of years ago, they went to overtime, which was 3 hours and 55 minutes, almost a 4-hour game. Not once did he ever say the crap that he does during World Series games. Oh, it's now 10 o'clock in the East and we're still playing the Super Bowl. He doesn't say it. He never once ever said that, or has said that. In the over 20 years that Fox has been broadcasting football games, or had the Super Bowl, he never says it's now 10 o'clock in the East and we're still playing the Super Bowl. But during the World Series and the Major League Baseball's World Series or the Baseball All-Star Game, he pulls that crap. But when he announces an NFL game, he doesn't do that because it's too busy giving Troy Aikman a blowjob in an announce booth. Okay, that's why he doesn't do it. And he also announced the game that went 3 hours and 45 minutes. And he announced last year's game went about 3 hours and 40 minutes last year. So there was 3 of the longest games he had, and then you had games that were like 3. I think last year's game went 3.5 hours. Ended at 10 o'clock. Doesn't say anything about how long. Doesn't ever complain, and nobody does ever complains about how long the games go, because they come up with excuses, say, oh, because you have a longer commercial breaks during the Super Bowl than any other sporting event, because the commercials cost like about $6 million for. Well, maybe not so much this year because of the virus. They cut down the commercials for the most part. And so the commercials got cut down, but the game still went 3.5 hours, in spite of that. And also because one of the other excuses they come up with about not complaining about how long the games go is because of the longer halftime show, which I'm going to mention in a second, or get into it in a second. But I thought that I think that football sucks all the time, so I'm not going to give a because of my hatred for the NFL, I'm not going to give it so much of a positive review. But to be honest, but I always thought that the last few years the games have been getting, more and more exciting. You have very few blowouts in the last 20 years or so. You've been having very the last 20 or almost 25 years. You have been having very, very few blowouts like this. I think in the last 25 years, you maybe have maybe 4 or 5 games, so like blowouts, before halftime. The game usually games like over before halftime. That's how you can tell it's a bad game, or a bad Super Bowl game. This game was over by the 2-minute warning in the second quarter. So it's gonna be on my phone there. It does beat. So that's what it was. I mean, it was already like 21-0, but by the second quarter, or 21-3, 21-6 by halftime. I think by halftime it was like 21-6, and it was just a horrible game. It was completely boring. Last week at the time of doing this review, I didn't know what the ratings were for the game last night. The game just happened last night, and so at the time doing this video, I didn't know what the ratings were. But you're probably going to have at least 100 million people watch this game. I mean, that's easy. But if it's going to go down or if it's going to go up, who knows? I think throughout the game, the ratings were probably going to go down because the game was boring. The game wasn't good at all. The commercials were horrible. And the halftime show, it was one of the worst halftime. I didn't even know who the hell this talent even was. Because in 2000 I think it was like 2004, when you had the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction in the 2004 Super Bowl. It was in January, February 2004. And this just happened like about 2 or 3 months after her brother was arrested for molesting a kid. I mean, Michael Jackson was arrested in November 2003. So this was just a couple months later, and she exposed herself in the halftime show. Since then, for the next few years after that, you had what you call like a safe act. I mean, you had Paul McCartney, you had Bruce Springsteen, you had Prince even. You had these older acts. And so, we don't want to see this. I think you even had the Who in one Super Bowl after the Janet Jackson thing. So we didn't see these old white guys performing. We want to see the young 20, 30-year-old guys performing. So they had, I think it was like last year, 2 years ago, they had Lady Gaga. And I have to admit, even though I'm not into her music, she gave a good performance. But now you had the act they had on last night, which was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, put it this way, it cannot possibly suck enough. Okay, that's how bad the performance was. And that's what they have. I mean, they can't have, let's say, you're in Florida, you're in Tampa, not in Miami. You could have easily had Gloria Estefan performing in the halftime show, which you had 30 years ago. I think it was like 1992, you had Gloria Estefan performing in the halftime show. You couldn't get as much better act than her performing a halftime show, or at least a medley of her big hits. Get somebody good. But no, you have to get a piece of garbage that they had before me last night. I mean, it was horrible. Everything about the game last night was horrible. And it was like 3.5 hours. I'm never going to get back on that. I mean, I could have been watching another review of a movie or something in this video instead of doing about the stupid Super Bowl. I mean, it sucks. Football sucks. It's a horrible fucking sport. It cannot suck enough. They should ban the goddamn sport altogether. But if they weren't making like billions of dollars, this game is overhyped. It's overrated. Too much gambling is involved, and if it wasn't for those three things, it wasn't making money for the gambling and for Budweiser and everything else, this sport will not make it 5 years. I mean, that's how bad the sport is. It's overhyped, overrated, and it sucks. And naturally, I don't do football reviews at all. This movie is, the Super Bowl is the most overrated, overhyped. I think the pregame show is ending now, by the way. I mean, that's how long the stupid pregame show is. I mean, the pregame show was so long, I watched 3 World Series games for the 1986 World Series I had the DVD of. I watched all the last 3 games before the pregame show ended. That's how long the pregame show is, folks. I am not kidding. I mean, it was 7.5 hours of bullshit, and then you have another 3.5 hours of a crappy game after that, and then you had another about half hour, 45 minutes of a stupid post game show, and then you have go on the QVC or HSN, and they saw 2 hours of Super Bowl champion crap. I mean, it was the most overrated, overblown crap you've ever seen in your whole life. I mean, it's unbelievable that it makes such a big deal of this fucking sport, and nobody ever complains that this game goes 3.5 hours, and nobody's. I mean, I'm serious. If you have a World Series game, a 1-0 World Series game that goes 3.5 hours, believe me, you go listen to sports talk radio in your town or wherever you live in, people will go throw a hissy fit, or they get a panties in a knot of a 3.5 hour World Series game, but for a 3.5 hour Super Bowl, they don't say crap. That is a double standard, folks, and that's why I hate fucking football. And football should be banned forever. So this is my. I know I ran on a rant there, but it's true. So that's my review of Super Bowl 55. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel. Please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews not only on my YouTube channel, but at rallyc.com, that's WDY, and at c.com, there's a homepage, Rally Reviewer, Chris Lee Moore, and please check out all of his videos on this website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.